What's poppin', my Freeform Renegades? You are tuned into the Freeform Network. Thanks for joining us for another fun episode of Freeform Radio. I'm your host, Noel, with my co host, Daniel.
Yes, sir, man. Chilling. Stomach's a little buggy today, but we're powering through it. It's football Sunday, so hopefully a good day.
Yes, sir. And we have Andy here.
It's all good, Andy. We're all back here, ready to talk your ears off.
Well, it's another beautiful day here in Chicago, and it is a little better than it was before, a little warmer out here. But wherever you listeners are, we hope you're relaxed and feeling good. And we're going to just jump right into this. We're going to start it off with Daniel here. Looks like you've been playing Max Payne, which is an awesome series. I've only ever beaten the first one, but I did get into the second one a little bit. Fill us in, man. How are you liking it?
Yeah, so started playing Max Payne. Now this is like a really, really old game. This came out back in PlayStation 2, so that's how old it is. Not sure what year PlayStation 2 was. It's like the 2000s, I think, early 2000s. But yeah, man, I started playing it just because I was looking for something old, something kind of retro to jump in after I had been playing a few bigger games. And I got decently far into it, but I came across some areas that were just too like janky and I just couldn't get any farther. But it did remind me how awesome this game was. I beat it once already before back in the PlayStation 2 or maybe PlayStation 3 days. I don't recall. But yeah, man, this game is really cool. It's narrated through like a comic book uh, motif, and the gameplay action. This was one of the first that really popularized that slow motion, John Woo, bullet time sequences. So that was really cool. You mentioned you played this before, Noel?
Actually, yeah, back in the PS2 era, I beat the second one, and then I think I replayed it again, emulation on 4K, because, yeah, like the graphics are so much better when you upscale it.
Yeah, for sure. Is this one that you even tried, Andy, or are you familiar with this one?
No, I remember it. Um, if I remember correctly, they had PS2. I don't. Did they have a movie? Maybe I'm confusing it with another movie, Hitman. Or and then this one had Max. This one had sequels too, right?
Yeah, this one was a movie with Marky uh the Funky Bunch guy. He was the one that played the character. I don't recall too much on the movie. I don't remember seeing that, uh but yeah, there was a few sequels, one and two for I imagine PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, and then they released Max Payne 3, which was a lot more upres with more modern graphics at the time for PlayStation 3, and that one I remember being really good. All three, to be honest, are really good. But right now the series is kind of dormant. I don't think they're planning to make any. Maybe they're planning to kind of revisit part one and part two, because I do remember seeing something from the Alan Wake guys kind of saying that they are going to revisit Max Payne maybe soon. But yeah, man, the first one, it was cool. I still got that nostalgia feel for it, but it was the controls were just really brutal. Um, I mean, I was playing on the controller, but it was just too much. It was just too bad. Um, I don't know if it would be much better on a PC. You mentioned you played it on the PC. Were the controls any better on that, Noel?
It was a couple years back. It's a little difficult to remember, but I believe you can use mouse to aim, so that would definitely help out. And then WASD for the controls, like to move around. But yeah, I want to say it's a lot better. I just can't remember very well because it's been probably 5 years at this point.
Yeah,
So
for
is
sure.
this a remastered version then, like HD, or is it just you just played it because I like you thought about it and you're like I want to play it?
No, no, it's the original OG one. So, um, it's got all the old graphics, all the old controls. So, nothing modernized. But I don't know. I was just in the mood for something older, so I decided, hey, let me pick it up. I was kind of scrolling through games that I already owned, and just look to pick one up and kind of start playing it. But yeah, man, Max Payne
Nice.
one. Go ahead.
No, no, I said nice. Yeah, I don't.
Oh,
Yeah, I remember it was a hit when the PS2 was around.
yeah. And I'm
Yeah,
just googling it right now, and it looks like they are in the process of looking at remaking part one and part two at the same time, using somewhat of the budget from Alan Wake. So it looks like it is moving forward. They're making a remaster of part one and part two, which is good, man, because they're really like got something special, man. The way the story is, the way the atmosphere, the sound, the lighting, it was kind of revolutionary at the time. Now you look at it and it's kind of like, oh man, this is really dated and old. Kind of like when you play like those old Tomb Raider games and you see like all those polylines, you're just like, man, Jesus, this is really old.
yeah, but it was revolutionary at that time. When you go from like old school SNES or even N64, and then you get into that PS2 era where you have like upgraded graphics and just the what did you call it? The gun time or whatever it is.
Yeah, the bullet time, the where it slows down the when you dive, it slows down time so you can shoot your bullets and stuff like that.
That
It,
inspired other games. Like Fear had that implemented as well. So Max Payne was like setting standards. It was cool.
No, yeah, for sure, 100%. And I had the full intent of trying to beat the game. After I got my nostalgia pop, I'm just like, man, this is pretty cool. Let me see if I can beat it, get the trophies, and see where I'm at. But I came across a part where you had to like traverse over some like scaffolding, and you got like this narrow, like 2 inch wide beam that you got to walk on, and people are shooting at you. And unfortunately, you don't regen health when you die. You just respawn from your last checkpoint with whatever health you had, and I had low health to begin with when I got to that spawn point.
Oh man.
And so I tried like half a dozen times. I would either get shot off by the guys or I would fall off because the beam is so narrow and the controls are too janky. And I'm finally like, it's not worth it. I beat this once before. I either got to this level before with a lot more health and it wasn't a problem, but I ended up giving up on that game. But really cool, man. If what the story I just googled right now looks like they're looking to remake it, so it should be exciting because it was definitely one of those revolutionary games when it first came out. Another game that's kind of revolutionary that I also jumped into because I wanted to, like I said, get into something kind of retro. I started trying to play GTA, the San Andreas one. This one came out during PlayStation 3 time, and this was kind of awesome because of the hip hop 1990s hip hop time. It was really really cool. I'm sure you guys played this one. All did you play the GTA one?
Yeah, yeah. It was actually one of the first times you could ever swim, I think, right?
Yeah, I know that the characters were limited because they didn't want to deal with the graphics and setting the boundaries for the swimming. So yeah, I think this was one of the first ones that you could start swimming in it.
Yeah. That was a super cool game and a good story. I don't want to spoil it, but I do remember like the plot twist at the end. It was good. I liked it.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the better ones. Andy, did you play this one? I think you were into the hip hop scene back in the day, and maybe this kind of called for you.
Yeah, I mean, I played it. It was one of the first games that I remember. Actually, they released like a soundtrack, like multiple CD soundtrack. Like I don't know if you remember that. They had a soundtrack for each station that you could be able to play, and then the other thing that sticks out to my mind, I had the PlayStation 3 one and the whole black coffee controversy, but I think that was on the PC. I don't know if you remember that whole thing.
Yeah, definitely the black coffee where I think it was either a girlfriend or a prostitute. You take her back home. She asks you, "Do you want to come inside for some coffee?" And then there was like a sex mini game that
Yeah.
was just there for the developers to kind of goof around with when they were trying to create like these mini games. But then it ended up getting cut. But yeah, like the PC community, they always scrape all the code, look to see what's in the background and junk, and somebody activated it, and sure enough, there's a little sex mini game inside the game. But yeah, this is another one that was kind of cool. It took me back retro. This one definitely is a lot more modern than the Max Payne one. The controls are still kind of janky, but a lot better. Graphics are a lot better. The music is awesome because it's kind of like where when I grew up to the 1980s, early 1990 hip hop, and a lot of good music soundtrack, like Andy mentioned. And it's just a cool story as well. Like Noel said, you go around and your mom had passed away, so you come back to hang out with your brother and some of your old crew and kind of get back into the shenanigans that you were in before. And it's just really cool. It was a really cool game. All the GTA's were pretty good. Part three, and then the second one was Vice City, which was also like a Miami Vice kind of theme, and that was pretty cool. But San Andreas was definitely like that 1990s hip hop scene, and it was really cool, really memorable.
Yeah, the around this time, like the late PlayStation 2 era to going into the PS3, there was like a lot of games. I remember when they used to do the show in Vegas. I forget the name, E2 or what was it called?
E3.
E3, I'm sorry. Yeah, they had a lot of like videos and stuff, and two games that come to mind right away was the first one was LA Noir, which did get released but on PlayStation 3, but I remember seeing video for PlayStation 2. It was much delayed. And I remember getting excited about that one. And the other one was the show on I think on G4 TV. There was like a lot of hype around this Las Vegas game that was going to be like GTA style, and they showed a ton of gameplay on it, and it never came out. And I actually in the summer, I remember just it popped in my head, and I saw the footage on YouTube, and I think they just ran out of money or something. I don't know, but that was one game I was like, you could gamble, fight, and do all this stuff GTA style, and it just never happened. And they're gonna have like really cool music with it too. I think they just ran out of money.
And you said Los Angeles or Las
Las
Vegas?
Vegas, Las
Oh
Vegas.
yeah, yeah. I do kind of remember something that Las Vegas where you can go around to different casinos. But yeah, sometimes games start up and they just never come out or never finish. But yeah, San Andreas was another one. This one I played for a little bit longer. I didn't beat it or anything, but I definitely played it quite a bit. And then finally just set it down for the current game that I'm playing, Assassin's Creed Mirage. But I'm in the middle of that. Still got a little bit to go to hopefully finish that, and then maybe talk about it a little some more in our next recording. But last thing I wanted to kind of bring up, my son finally got his learner's permit to start driving. So we finally going to start the world of learning how to drive, and me trying to teach him without having a heart attack. But I got to report back after a few days of him driving. He's doing very well. No near misses, no giving me a heart attack where I wish I had that Duffy brake. Everything's been cool. Not had much issues or any problems. But yeah, man, joining the world and another teenager out there driving, man.
Oh, congrats, man! It's exciting and scary at the same time. A friend of ours too, his daughter just got her permit, and it's amazing to see. Like you just look at them as like young kids, and they're growing up, and then um, yeah, it's just interesting. I guess it's exciting, like I said, and it's I always wonder, like, as a parent, I'm a parent, but I got a long way to go. Is when my kid starts driving, like, how much do you like? Okay, yeah, go ahead and drive there, and you're like, the anxiety and everything gets to you. Like, oh, hope this kid doesn't mess up the car.
For sure, man. Noel, you remember when you first started driving?
Oh yeah, man. That was quite many years ago, but yeah, it was good, man. It was nervous in the beginning because I had never driven, and I know like this is like a big responsibility. You could really do a lot of damage if you don't know what you're doing. So I was definitely white knuckling the, the steering wheel my first few times, sweaty palms and everything, you know. But I was learning, and the more experience, the better it is, and so that's awesome, man. Junior, he's growing up quick, man. It's crazy, but yeah, it'll be cool to see him finally driving.
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah, he's getting taller by the minute, eclipsing a bunch of people in height. We got a bunch of short people in our family, and he's just getting taller and taller. But yeah, really exciting times learning how to drive. Andy, really quick, any scary driving, learning how to drive? Was it all through Duffy, or did somebody else kind of take you under their wing?
Nah, man. My dad was like, "Oh, you can drive," and my dad didn't have a license, so he would make me drive him to the liquor store a lot. That's
Uh,
about it. But yeah, Duffy. I know we had a friend that had Duffy and failed him, but it's it is scary to me thinking about it now. Like I said, I'm a parent, and I'm just like, ugh, I can't imagine this kid driving and how it's even gonna be like in what 14 years. So we'll see how it goes.
No, for sure. Yeah, it could definitely be scary. And that kind of leads us to you, Andy, man. Something else that might be scary, the UFO disclosures coming soon. I know Trump is kind of releasing a bunch of information. Fill us in on what you know, man.
So yeah, I mean, there's a groundswell of we had the orbs around Christmas time. I think I talked about it the last podcast, and so there's more and more stuff trickling on the UFO community. Um, it sounds. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, there's all these people that think it's uh, Blue Beam and the Project Blue Beam and disinformation, and they're trying to steer us away. But the last time the committee's all worked up because they feel like disclosure like is imminent, especially Dr. Stephen Greer made an announcement on a show, maybe his podcast, talking about we're gonna have disclosure this month, but we're coming to the final week of this month of the recording in January, and there's more people coming out. There's a documentary that's been in the works. Apparently, they released a trailer. They have a ton of people in the government talking about it, that they're uh, disclosing a lot of information. We just had the News Nation report. I don't know how much you guys saw that, where they picked up a UFO egg and people are just shitting on it on Twitter. Did you guys get a chance to see that?
No.
No, I didn't hear about
Yeah.
that. What, a UFO
So
egg?
this guy came out. He said he was part of a retrieval. He was part of a in the armed forces. I forget what agency, but his job was to retrieve downed UFOs, and they found one, the egg shaped one. They didn't really give details of what I can remember. It came out a couple weeks ago, and they have the night vision camera picking up, throws in this like long rope to pick up this UFO, and they were given sizes, and people were all excited up to the lead up because it was like back some part of this UFO community thing, and they came on, and like always people just dismiss it or shit on it, or people are like, this is the most realist thing ever. Like, disclosures coming, and it's just like always. And then you had Greer make Dr. Stephen Greer. He's done a couple documentaries with some like credible footage, and he has credible people come out from the government, and they talk about a lot of stuff, and then they ask him really specific questions, and they won't talk about it. They're like, I'm not going to talk about that. But Greer is doing the interview, and he knows. You can see their faces, like they're shocked that, like, about those projects. And I seen a ton of them where they're like, I'm not going to talk about that because it's super like highly classified. And so the community's up in a roar. They're all worked up. And then with Trump releasing the usual JFK, RFK, and MLK supposed classified documents. I mean, they released. People are getting all worked up about that. I know RFK made some comments. Um, MLK, the family made some comments, and then the Kennedy people. Like it's always the Kennedy. Everybody kind of knows what's happened, but we really can't confirm anything. So I don't know how much of those uh, classified documents are going to show what or what they're going to let us see. Like always, man, they give you a little bit where you're like, oh shit, but they don't give you everything because the last time Trump said he was going to do this, they talked him out of it because he stated um, uh, there's people still alive that were involved in that. We don't want to get them all messed up or whatever, get them in trouble.
Right, because they already released a bunch of JFK stuff before, and now this is just to release more stuff, or at least the balance.
Yeah, because there's a video on Twitter floating around where it's still kind of like, I don't know where they got this footage. You clearly see the passenger in front of the driver shooting Kennedy. Like you see it clear as day. It was like one of the most, I'm like, is this AI or what is this? And
I don't know. I saw that, but the gun is facing like upwards. It's not even facing towards Kennedy's direction.
They're saying that it's a specialized gun because I've heard in the past from other conspiracy people say that they didn't use a normal gun or rifle, that they used some special type of gun. Yeah, I don't know, like some air pistol or something. And
I don't know. I saw that video too, and I was just like, "Oh shit!" They got. Is this part of the release things? And then as soon as I saw it, and then they drew kind of an arrow of the bullet's trajectory.
Yeah,
I'm like, the gun's not even facing in that direction. I'm like, that doesn't even make any sense. It's just like, yeah, you can draw an arrow, but if the gun's facing like totally into a different direction, that's not the bullet's trajectory. But I don't know. Maybe that has some special gun. I don't know.
People are debating, but it is showing. Like I said, this is before Trump's thing. So like, they're mind fucking people, or they're trying to like disinformation you to like go down this path to cover other things? Because there's always been like the second gunman, and there's always been like it was the mob. It was always like it was not, the new one taking a lot of credibility is LBJ. Johnson was involved, along with the deep state, and it just keeps evolving. Every decade it changes. And I remember hearing about the driver or the passenger in the front shooting. I remember hearing that forever, but you can never really tell. This video that just came out, I seen it this week. It was just like very good, clear, very slowed down. You see him turn around. You see this, like you said, they have a trajectory arrow, a red arrow. I mean, it looks good, but I'm like, I don't know if I believe. I'm like you, like I don't know if I believe it or this is too good to be true. Like always, right? What they do with and all the conspiracy theorists and all these people who make these, put out these theories, and I don't know. I'm on the fence about it. And the only thing that came out good from the original JFK dump was that Hitler was apparently in South America, and they had documents and they had a picture of it, and that was the first time I remember hearing about that back in the day, but I thought it was too far fetched. But apparently, even the U.S. government thought so, and they had a picture of it. So that's the only thing that came from the JFK dump that I distinctly remember.
Yeah, it kind of sucks that we're in an era where people could fake stuff pretty good, where you kind of question yourself whether this is real or not. Like even the alleged gun, it's so grainy. For all I know, it's just like the guy's baton or something, and he had it in his hand. I don't know. It could be anything. It might not even be a gun, but you don't know. You don't know if this is some kind of AI, some guy fixed the image, trying to make it look this. So it's going to become the season of, even though they released it, kind of like we've mentioned with aliens, where you kind of, the only thing that you're going to believe is an alien dropping in the front lawn of the White House. Otherwise, anything else might be disputed.
they're still gonna dispute that. That's the thing. They're still gonna dispute it. So, uh, yeah, people are gonna say it's that Project Bluebeam thing where they can make anything look like the holograms and all that shit, and like to each their own, man. But we're as we get older, like I said, I've seen it all. We'll see what happens, man. Because the UAP thing, I haven't seen this much fervor and discussion about it since Obama. And Obama, there was literally people saying because they had Podesta, I think it was this chief of staff saying like, yeah, we need to just open disclosure. He's been a big proponent, but he has other issues. I don't want to talk about his other issues. You could look that up, but um, there was, I remember when on Obama's second term, if I remember correctly, there was going to be disclosure. They had a date and everything. They were talking about like the month of November, all this stuff, and a lot of people, supposed insiders. It was more from than one source talking about this was going to happen, this was going to happen, and it never happened. And then the that's like the first time I heard about it. This other time was um, Reagan. Reagan was going to say something, and then they convinced him not to say anything. Hence his famous speech at the UN. Um, we had an outside threat, like how would this world would unite? And people still talk about that till this day. And I think Trump kind of wants to do it, but they scared him. But nah, I don't know. He's going in guns blazing, doing all his executive orders and releasing stuff. We'll see what happens because uh, there's a lot of talk about it. This all started with Jersey. That kind of just the orbs over there. That kind of started all this. It stopped, and now more people are coming out saying that these weren't orbs, and now it's something else. And there was other release on 4chan uh, stuff came out that they some whistleblowers came out stating that these things are coming from the ocean because there was videos where that were of the orbs coming out of the ocean. And then on top of it, the whole Antarctica thing, that's another big thing where they think they might be. But like I said, we'll see, man. It is it's a big time, but I think they're preparing us to this. If they were friendly, I think they would have had some type of disclosure, but they're not. So I think maybe they're trying to scare people. I don't know. It's just at this point, I don't know what to believe in all my years of all this UFO stuff from like junior high and late elementary school to now. I just like it's getting to a point where with the internet is so much information out there. I don't know. It's getting to a point where like I don't think it's ever gonna happen unless, like I always said, the UFO lands in the front of the White House and then we go from there.
I think they'll release more information when it's beneficial to them. Um, and we were talking about this like years ago. Remember the Amero and trying to like
Mm-hmm.
unify the North,
Mm-hmm.
and like now we're seeing stuff come into light that they might make something like that happen. Maybe not the Amero, right? But you see Trump wanting to get Canada as part of another part of the states, and then trying to invade Mexico. Supposedly, these are all rumors, right? And him saying that he might want to do it. And then when you start bringing aliens into the mix, it's always hard to like believe stuff like that, especially like there's so much, like you said, disinformation and stuff. But there are some things that like it kind of leads me to believe that there is a chance, at least a chance, right? Have you heard of Bob Lazar?
Yes.
So I was watching a video this morning about Bob Lazar talking about how to bend space and time and how aliens would
Mm-hmm.
use, like trying to explain like how aliens could even travel over here, wherever they're coming from, right? And he talks about
Yep.
element 115, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like used as a power source. And when used in a particle accelerator, it creates element 116, which decays instantly, but it produces antimatter. And supposedly that's what the aliens are using to travel. And so Bob Lazar has been on Joe Rogan's podcast. He's talked about a bunch of stuff. and I'm like, okay, there's a chance that there could be something to it. Um, but we won't ever. I don't think we'll ever really know unless it benefits the governments to do so. And if they do disclose it, my belief is that they'll probably try to do it in a way where like this is the enemy. We all got to unite, make one world government, and then we have to make sure you're really you. So now you need to identify yourself, and you know what I mean. They're gonna start doing some. It could be that way. So I don't know.
Yeah, like I said, Bob Lazar, I remember him as a kid in the 80s, and then him selling his tapes and all that, and then they tried to discredit him. He had a documentary come out a while back, and he's been on Joe Rogan a couple times. He's been on Coast to Coast, if I remember correctly. So he's one of those people where he's been around for a while. Um, but we'll see, man. Like I said, to me, I think we're pretty close. But again, I've seen this before. I really thought under Obama they were going to do it, but they didn't. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully, man, maybe we'll be the generation that sees this happen. But um, my Gen X attitude won't let me accept it as much as a kid. But we'll see. But let's go over to Noel. I see he watched Friday the 13th remake. I don't even know if this was remade. I thought they were cranking out sequels, but what's going on with that one, Noel?
Yeah, so this one came out, man, 24, no, 2009 it came out, but it's been many years, man, almost 20 years at this point. So, yeah, this one had a pretty decent cast. They when they remade it, I think the last movie came out with maybe like the late 90s. Or actually, the Jason X was the early 2000s. So yeah, there was a good period of time where there was no movies. Um, and actually, I'm forgetting about Jason versus Freddy. So there was that one as well. But this is like the first bringing him back to the old school, and it was pretty good, man. Well done. It's If you're a horror fan, if you like Jason, this is definitely one of those that you got to watch. It's just mandatory. You got to get it. That notch on your belt with this one. But it's got a decent cast. A lot of people that were in the CW ended up being in this movie, and they ended up having like pretty decent careers as actors after this. In which a lot of the movies, the Friday the 13th movies, those are like forgettable actors, people that you wouldn't really see very often anymore. But the actor list in here: Jared Padalecki, he was in Supernatural. Danielle Panabaker, she was in The Ring. She was in The Flash. She's been in some stuff, right? Amanda Rigetti, she was in The OC. Aaron Yu, Disturbia, 21. There's a lot of character actors here, people that have been in a lot of movies. And well, anyway, going back to the story, it's kind of retconning a few things, or like fast forwarding a few things. You don't get to see the mother anymore. If anybody remembers the first Friday 13th, it didn't even have Jason, it had the mother. And the whole motivation was that her son died because the counselors were, out there, doing, getting high, banging, just messing around, and they weren't taking care of the kids. And so Jason ended up drowning. And so the mother wanted to get revenge on the counselors, so she ended up murdering, all of them, or just about all of them. If you remember the ending, you'll know that she didn't kill everybody. But in this movie, in this remake, the 2009, Jason, you don't even see his mom at all. It's just focused on him, and it starts off with him killing a group of kids that are out in the wilderness, and or Camp Crystal Lake area, and it also introduces a new set of kids. Jared Padalecki is the brother of one of the original people that was killed by Jason in the start of the movie. So Jared's looking for his sister. There's missing wanted posters all over the place, and these new group of kids, or young adults, will say, not they're not really kids. They're like in their 20s or whatever, college kids. They're out there trying to do the same stuff, party and all that. They have no idea Jason's out there. Everybody, this town is like kind of creepy. They're warning them like, yo, you should get out of here. That's not good to be out there. And they don't listen. Obviously, one of the guys, he's like one of those preppy like rich Ivy League kind of types. His name is Trent. He invites everybody to his, parents' cabin out there, and it's a pretty nice cabin, wealthy family. So they're out there partying, doing their thing, and then Jason, sets his sights on him and goes for the kills, and really actually entertaining like kills. Like if you watch horror movies, you're watching it, to see people get, just messed up, right? As weird as it sounds, that's the whole point of a horror movie, right? So there's actually some creative kills in it, and it's pretty cool.
Even
The
the
Jace,
the Asian guy in the tool shack.
yeah, yeah, man, yeah. No, there's some crazy stuff that happens in this movie, but yeah, I would say, yeah, there, man,
or
poor
or
guy.
the boat, the chick in the lake gets hit with the boat, and then she comes off the lake, and
Oh
there's
yeah, because they killed the guy that was driving the boat, and then so
right.
she's just out there in the water. She's like waving at the boat, like, "Hey, stop!" And he's just still coming at her. I was like, "Why don't you move out of the way?" I don't freaking get it, dude. But hey, you got to kill him somehow, right? So, but it was a good movie. I would say if you're a horror fan, you're gonna look at this and you're gonna be like, "Oh, this is a 7," you know. But if you're an average movie person, you're watching it, for what it is, like for a movie, you probably lean more towards like a 6, right? It's not a bad movie. It's a decent movie. It's decent acting and all that. It's just if you're a horror fan, you're gonna like it even much more. So, not
Right.
a
To me, I dug it. I kind of was hoping it was gonna reignite the series, and we were gonna get more regular movies like every couple of years. But yeah, I'm guessing it didn't do that well financially, maybe critically. I'm not really sure, but I dug it. I thought it was a really good remake movie. Definitely a lot more serious. I would say it's still kind of campy and funny, but definitely a lot more like modern looking. It doesn't have that B movie look.
Yeah, it doesn't really it does better than the other. It's probably one of the better movies of the Friday 13th series in terms of like the quality of acting and the script and all that production. It definitely had a good budget, 19 million, and it made 91.5 million worldwide. So it made its money back plus some. So um, I would say they easily doubled their money when you take marketing and all that into account. So it's a shame they didn't keep it going. But hey, man, I mean, we're almost 20-year anniversary for this movie, so maybe they'll remake it again. But so yeah, that I watched that recently. Just wanted to, keep you guys updated on the horror stuff. But video games, I've actually been playing a lot more video games than I've been watching movies, surprisingly. Um, and most recently, I beat Callisto Protocol on the PS5, and that one is kind of like a Dead Space clone. It does have its own story. It's actually a really cool story, and it's not super in depth, but it's like just a fresh take on this kind of genre where it's like aliens and creatures, and you're fighting and you're trying to escape, and it's a sci-fi dystopian horror thriller, I guess I would, name it. And I know you've heard about it, right, Daniel? Callisto Protocol.
Yeah, yeah. This is one that I beat. Um, Beat it on PlayStation 5. Really cool. The last boss was kind of cheesy, but yeah, the game was pretty cool. I dug it. Did you enjoy it after everything?
Yeah, yeah, you're 100% right with that last boss. It triggered me at a certain point. Like I had to stop and like recalibrate and just like because it's like some of these games the bosses are really cheap, man. And
Right.
I actually had this happen on Devil May Cry 5. Um, or no, Devil May Cry 4. Yeah, Devil May Cry 4 and Callisto Protocol had bosses that they had like a certain attack pattern that is kind of cheap and it's like OP, and you have to like redo it. And if you get hit too many times and your health isn't at a certain level, it's like that Max Payne situation. You just get stuck in this loop. Like you have to get it pixel perfect or just right to be able to finally get it past that cutscene or whatever, and then you're good and you're solid from there. But
Yeah, for sure. Hey, quick question, Andy.
mhm.
Did you pick up OP? Do you know what that means?
OPP?
No.
No.
It stands for overpowered.
Mm.
OPP.
Or PT Power Talker.
Maybe.
Oh man, yeah. No, there's some bosses that are overpowered, man, and they have these defenses and whatever that you got to be like on point with your dodges, with your movement, with your attacks. And sometimes it gets annoying, right? And if you keep redoing it and redoing it, but when you finally beat it, it's like it's almost like a cathartic relief. Like you want to like yell out, like just swear, like fuck yeah, like I did it, like. So anyway, yeah, Callisto Protocol, cool story. You're really quick to recap it. You're in space. This is like very futuristic. You're in space. You're flying. You're what is it? Not smuggler, but you're transporting like goods and stuff, and you get kind of like somebody stows on the ship or whatever you want to call it, and they try to steal whatever you're bringing to this place. And when they're on there, they cause issues with your ship, and you end up like crashing, and you become a prisoner to this planet that you're on, and it's a prison planet. So initially they wanted to give the benefit of the doubt to the guy, but then they're like, you know what, we don't need people just coming and going, so they're just gonna make him a prisoner. And so they put him in the system and everything, and he's a former prisoner, like a formal prisoner now. And then literally within an hour or so of after that, all hell breaks loose in this prison, and you got like weird creatures and aliens and stuff. And it's actually really creepy, and it's really dark and atmospheric, and I thought it was really cool. It reminded me a lot of Dead Space. And it's just a good game overall to play. Kind of a short one too. I think it's about 10 hours. If you just just power right through it. If you explore and everything, maybe a little bit extra. But I would probably give this one probably like a 7.5. I really dug it. It would be really cool to see a second one, although yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they would make it, but yeah, it was kind of a bummer at the end, but we'll see. Did you enjoy it, Daniel?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. It wasn't as good as Dead Space, but it definitely was good in the sense that it was really linear. So there was really like one path only to do. There was like some minor branching, but it really redirected you quick back to where the game wanted you to move. So there wasn't a ton of like second guessing where you're going to go, or let me explore this huge branch and then come back. So I kind of dug that because it was definitely a change from the big world games, but I dug it. The atmosphere is cool, the sound, the lighting, everything was really cool about this game. And it's funny because it came out really close to the Dead Space remake release, and they were both really cool to play back to back and kind of compare them.
Right. And I think it wasn't received very well in the initial launch. I think they had to do like a patch or something that ended up fixing a few issues they had. But when I played through it, it was smooth, it was solid. Again, I played on the pro, and the graphics, the cutscenes, like the production was there. It was really good. But it actually just got to be more excited to play Dead Space now, the remake. So that'll probably be on the horizon pretty soon for me. And really quick, one other game I played, and I know you've beaten this one too, Daniel. This is another PS2 game that was remade, Shadow of the Colossus. Do you remember this one, Andy, on the PS2, Shadow of the Colossus?
I kind of do. Isn't it like a launch title, if I remember correctly, or it's like one of the original, like early on when the system came out.
I don't know if it was. I don't think it was a launch title. Do you know, Daniel, when roughly when it came out?
No, I think it was kind of mid-gen when it came out on PlayStation 2. Then it got re-released in a collection for PlayStation 3, and that's really more where it became shined. And then it got remastered for PlayStation 4.
Yeah, it sounds like one of those cheap games, if I remember. I mean, I remember seeing that game a lot at Fry's, and it wasn't expensive for whatever reason. That's the game I'm thinking. I
Well,
remember a game like a Colossus. Yeah.
they did have the greatest hits for sure.
Yeah.
So that's probably what you remember is like one of those, $20 greatest hits games. But the- again, like Daniel said, this is a remaster for the PS4. I played on the PS5 Pro again, and so the frame rate was locked at 60, and it was playing at 4K and upscaled, obviously. But it looked super good, man, super good. The studio that made this, I think it was Studio Japan, which has now since been broken up. But that game studio was one of the best, like to make first party games for PS5, PS in general. And this style of game, it's kind of like it has that anime style, like that look and that feel. It's really cool, immersive, and essentially what the story is, you're this young kid called Wanderer, and you're taking this girl who appears to be lifeless on you're on horseback, right? And you're trying to go to these ruins that are like really deep in like the middle of nowhere, and it's like this humongous open vast space with like ancient ruins, and it really gives you like this dystopian vibe and this isolated, like you're alone in the world vibe. And I just remember feeling helpless and like alone. And I was like, man, there's nobody to talk to, nobody to help you. You're just on your own trying to navigate around here. And you get to this place where, like, the center of the ruins, kind of like I forgot what they called it. It's almost like a headquarters or whatever you want, like like a ritualistic center point of this whole place that connects everything. And you get spoken to by what seems like some kind of ethereal eternal being that tells you, hey, if you kill these 16 colossus, these humongous monsters, creatures, if you kill them, I will help you resurrect this girl. But you have to kill them so that way I can get my power back. And so little by little, you're on your way, like looking to try to find these colossus to kill them. And you have this like magic sword that helps you guide the way, and you ride on your horse to try to find them. And so the whole story is really simple. You're just kind of killing each monster and giving power back to this, god, deity, whatever, to resurrect this girl. And I'm not going to spoil the story, but it's really fun. I got hooked on it. I beat it in, I think I want to say, like 8 to 10 hours. I kind of just flew through it, and I unfortunately I did have to look up some tutorials on some of these monsters because they were just like kicking my ass, man. But I would say definitely worth playing, Andy, if you've never played it, and if you, I think you do have your PS5. I would
Yeah.
highly recommend trying it out, man. It's a fun game.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
definitely a must play. Definitely, really excellent game. Really minimalist. I mean, there's only like three or four characters in the whole game, minus the Colossus. Um, but yeah, the art design, and yeah, man, this studio was really good at making games. The only thing is that they would take forever. That Fumito, the director guy, Fumito from Studio Japan, but he would just take forever. He's the same guy that did Eco, um, and this is another one that he did, Shadow Colossus. He also did The Last Guardian, and he's working on a new one, this mech looking kind of game. But yeah, man, this is definitely one of his best ones. Equal was good, but this is definitely like where he shined and did some really good stuff. And yeah, the story's awesome. Super sad with the horse, Argo. So yeah, it's a really cool story, really cool game.
Yeah, I remember that part when you're going across the bridge, and then yeah, man, Boda Argo. But
Yeah.
it's yeah, the if you remember the ending, it's like it works out, it works out. But I'm not gonna spoil it, especially if Andy hasn't played it. Hopefully, you do play it one day. But yeah, that wraps things up for the week, man. Gonna keep on playing games, and I'll keep you guys updated. But it is time to get into the article of the week. All right, so we got an article here. This is from buddycarter.house.gov. This released on January 9th, and it's kind of talking about something that means something to every adult that works in this country, and that's taxes. So this article says Carter introduces bill abolishing IRS tax code. And so I'm going to read a little bit, but I'm going to leave it to the viewers to read the majority of it. I'm going to kind of go through it pretty quickly and then get your guys' thoughts on it. The fair tax would repeal the current tax code and replace it with a single national consumption tax. In addition to eliminating all personal and corporate income taxes, the death tax, gift taxes, payroll tax, the fair tax would also eliminate the need for the IRS. Now, this was a bill introduced by Buddy Carter, Georgia's first district. And a quote here, it says, "The fair tax is exactly that, fair. It is the only tax proposal out there that is pro growth, simple, and allows Americans to keep every cent of their hard earned money while eliminating the need for the IRS altogether. I'm proud to lead this Georgia grown legislation that puts American people, not bureaucrats, in charge of the tax rate." And it was sponsored by it mentions a few different people that sponsored it. It also gives a quote by Representative Barry Loudermilk. "Hardworking Americans should not need a team of lawyers and or accountants to fill out their taxes. They need a simple system that encourages growth and innovation. Taxpayers should not have the IRS agents targeting them or wanting to keep more of their hard-earned money." That's why he's also proud to support this legislation. And other people give their thoughts on it, but essentially this was first introduced to the Congress in 1999 by former Georgia Congressman John Linder, and then carried by Congressman Rob Woodall. The fair tax is the leading tax reform movement in the country. It is the only tax system that is simple, efficient, friendly to economic growth, non-discriminatory, unintrusive, and overall fair. So it also says, this was a quote from President Steve Hayes: "The fair tax requires immigrants who are in the U.S. illegally to pay taxes, and it denies them the consumption allowance provided to all legal U.S. residents and eliminates instances of people using taxpayer funded resources without paying into the system." And it says President Trump has called for a secure border, elimination of income tax, and an overhaul of government efficiency. The fair tax plan advances all three of those goals and is a must-pass legislation for 2025. So this is interesting if it does end up happening. Again, Earl L. Buddy Carter introduced it. It's called HR 25, the Fair Tax Act, and it would essentially replace our current tax code. I thought it was a really good idea to do this when Trump was running for election prior to him being elected, and he said he did have plans to, revamp the IRS and the tax code. And now that he's implementing the ERS to do the tariffs, it could in the future allow for the IRS to be diminished, especially because they've already frozen federal hiring. I'm like, dude, this is moving in a direction that I'm liking to hear. I'm hoping that they do eventually remove income tax federally. I get if the states still have some taxes, but federal tax, if they remove that, that's a huge relief on so many hardworking Americans, especially the middle class, which has been, I would say, hit the hardest throughout all these years of Biden's administration, even prior to that. But with all that being said, I leave it up to you guys. What do you guys think about this?
Yeah, I most
Yeah.
definitely think this is a good idea. I don't know if it'll pass. There's too capitalism is too crazy nowadays. Everybody wants to make more and more, which I understand. I want to make more and more as well. But yeah, I think me and Andy were actually even talking about this a few weeks ago, how you get taxed when you make money and then you get taxed again when you spend it. So you're getting taxed twice for everything. And I would assume what this guy's proposing is that we would just crank up the consumer tax and not charge you tax for money that you earn. So then that way you only pay, let's say consumer right now for some stuff is like 7%, let's say. We make that 20, and then that'll be the only tax that you pay is when you buy goods, pay 20%, and then the rest is for you to keep. So I could see it kind of working in that fashion, but yeah, I I would guess any kind of big change like this, especially with getting rid of a department like the IRS, you know, they just up their budget and giving them access to guns to come around and collect money from you. So I doubt they're going to take the guns away from them and kind of diminish the department.
Oh wow, guns, the IRS.
What that was last year, wasn't it? That they announced that they were going to up their budget and they were going to allow IRS agents to walk around with guns
Yeah,
as they go and serve people for tax evasion.
yeah. They I think under Biden they collected the most they've ever done because they did hire more agents. But hence that's why I was like, well, there's all these tax cheats because people pay a lot of taxes. I've seen stuff like this where there's like a national sales tax and all this, but I think there's a guy at work always tells me like, oh, Trump's gonna get rid of the IRS. He's gonna get rid of the Fed. I'm like, they're not gonna let him, dude. I mean, it's just it's the bureaucracy of all this. Um, it's gonna be a challenge. I did hear about the hiring freeze, but I think at this point, I mean, we're taxed so much. I think there should be um, like a national sales tax where everybody pays the same amount. Now it depends on what exactly you're buying, right? Like I don't know if that includes like properties and cars and all that. Then you're gonna pay more. But I mean, a lot of people already get returns. I know this tax season's upon us. I already hear people are bitching about they're getting less money. But I mean, we'll see. I personally think they'll never get rid of the IRS. I don't think they're never going to get rid of any of those um, institutions that the government has because it's there. It's easier for them not to use it, like dwindle it down, but they're not going to get rid of it. They're great at just creating stuff and just have it there and then just be part of the bureaucracy and like just there, just sitting there. You need a budget and it's just hard. I don't see it, but unless they really change where people really bitch about getting rid of income tax, and then the big debate is like, well, what are we going to tax? Are we taxing everything, like everything that is transactional, like where it involves money? Internet, uh, streaming, sales tax, property tax. Like, well, how's all that shit gonna work? So we'll see, man. That's the big debate, and like the system we got is not perfect, absolutely, but for everybody to get their fair share, pay their fair share, that's another challenge because we all know that millionaires and billionaires they don't pay little to no taxes because they could hire the best accountants, the best lawyers to write down everything. So, and the average person who files their TurboTax or whatever, they get a big chunk of those people get returns. But once you hit a certain point, financially, they're going to take it away. It's usually upper middle class people that get hosed on that.
I agree, man. I think the middle class is probably the worst affected by it. Um, I remember when I started my new job, I moved up a tax bracket from the job I had before. And I figured, oh man, I'm making more money now compared to what I was making before. It's going to be great. I can do this and that with it. And then come tax season, it's like, oh yeah, you just barely got any refund. I'm like, what? It's like, yeah, let them know you want to increase the amount they take out of your out of your check for next year. Otherwise, you might owe. I'm like, how the
Yeah.
hell does that work? I'm like, I make more money now and I get taken more now. Like, so I end up almost having either the same or just a little bit above what I used to have. And it's because I moved up that bracket.
That's
And
because
I,
you're successful.
yeah, they take that success away. And with a simple click, to them, I
And
put
then
in over 2,000 hours of work and they're just, oh, yeah, let's just take it away from you. Just like simple as that.
and then with inflation is another tax. That's why Trump got in because everything's so fucking expensive. And now they're like, after as the time of this recording, less than a week in office, people are like, oh, eggs are still expensive. Yeah, the eggs are expensive because of what the previous administration did with the money, and that's why inflation went through the roof. That's why we have higher interest rates. That's why everything's more expensive because of that. Um,
How much does
but
that UFO egg cost?
I don't know, man. I heard it's the size of like two cars, man. So,
Because real
Damn.
eggs, chicken eggs are like $8 a dozen. I wonder how much those UFO
man, it
ones
sounds
cost.
like you like the good eggs, bro. I went to Aldi last night. They were 4.97 for a standard, not the jumbos. You like the jumbo ones? It sounds like.
Ah, nice, nice. No, it sounds like Trump is taking action, man. He's dropping these prices. Hopefully.
Hopefully, we'll see. But yeah, man, it's the income tax in this country is it's a little out of whack, and the tax thing is out of whack. So maybe a national sales tax will work. I don't know. I just my thing is like, well, what are they gonna tax? Like every fucking thing like you purchase down to like when you buy a house, or is like does that get rid of property taxes, or that like a state thing, with the county tax? And it's just that's what I don't understand. And then like um yeah, it's just like that. So they're like the guys like your gifts. Like, what about if you win the lottery, the $1 billion prizes? Do you keep the whole $1 billion? Like, how does that work? You know?
I mean, yeah, it's definitely above my head. Like I think I would need an economic degree or something like that.
Nah, you don't need that, dude. It's just common sense shit. Because rich people are never gonna pay taxes, dude. It's just simple as that. The only tax that everyone pays is when you buy something, because there's sales tax.
I was hearing something about how rich people use like borrowed money and invest that, and that's how they don't pay taxes or something like that.
Yeah, they don't have income. That's the whole thing. They don't like Bezos and all. They don't have like income from their companies. I don't know how they do it, but they have access to money. The companies pay for everything.
The way I understand it, and it's a very simple understanding. I'm not very well versed in all that yet. A lot of these rich people, they don't have like tangible reserves of money. They own stuff, right? Like they own stocks and shares and all that, and that gives them leverage. And aside from like dividends and stuff, they use like that leverage to be able to invest in other stuff with that like borrowed money from those investments. So like you're always owing something, kind of like how banks do it. Like
Yeah,
banks use our money that we put in their bank to do investments and other stuff. So they always owe to somebody, right? And if anything ever goes down, you're gonna be SOL. But these guys, like they always, when you're in the know, when you're in that secret club, you don't have to worry about it. But if you don't know and something goes wrong, you're in massive amounts of debt.
it's what I've seen, and from like what I've seen and read, the companies pay for everything. I mean, the individual person doesn't the individual billionaire doesn't really own anything. Everything is paid through the company. So your helicopters, your homes. Look at P. Diddy, like some of the homes he had were registered to different entertainment companies that he had. Bezos does the same shit. Trump, it's all through the Trump, company. They don't own anything individually. Their net worth is based off of the sales of they sell the company or anything like that. So that's where all that's from. Some of them take a salary, a lot of them don't, because again, everything's expense to the companies that they technically work or own. So that's how I understand it. The private planes and all that, and everything, how they make their money. It's like you said, they go to the bank and they get loans. They never use their own money. Rarely do they use their own money, and they use every tax benefit and everything that the corporation can use to for leverage to pay tax, not to pay taxes.
But maybe that's why it'll work because if they just charge you when you spend it, since these billionaires don't
Yeah,
really have income, they're just
yeah,
gaining interest. Then you pay taxes on the stuff that you want to buy. So when you want to go buy that new Mercedes, that's when you pay it. When you want to go
The
buy
company
this,
will pay it, yes.
right?
That's
Or
what I'm saying.
whoever ends
Everybody
up buying it,
pays
right?
when you purchase. The individual filings and the individual corporate tax, there's so much shit that like they whittle it down to nothing. But if you do purchases on behalf of the company, if you do this and that, then yeah, you're paying a sales tax. Everybody has to pay that. I mean, everybody, unless you're like tax exempt, like a church or something, or like a prison or some, like some government entities are tax exempt. So to me, that's the only thing I could see where everybody pays. I mean, everybody it pays for sure. Now the thing is going to be like how I look at it. It's what's going to, what constitutes where you have to pay a sales tax. And like you might have a state one, like when you purchase a car, and a federal one. Because right now I think it's just like a state. You pay. If you purchase a car in Illinois, you got to pay a down to a goddamn county tax, I think, right? So the state might kick in like whatever percentage they want to charge you on that down, stuff like that. But we want to, that's all the time we got, man. We got to wrap this up because it's actually a nice day here today. So I want to thank you for listening. Remember, you can follow Freeform Network on Facebook and X at Freeform Network. Send your questions and suggestions to ffnquestions@gmail.com. Let us know how you would tax every single American. You know, the founding fathers, the tax that they paid on, the revolution started on. I think it's like double what we're paying now back compared to the day. And all we do is bitch about it, but do no action. So let us know what you guys think. Follow our webpage at freeformnetwork.podbean.com. There you'll see the links on all the platforms we are, on how you listen or consume us. Check us out, like, subscribe, comment. That helps us out immensely. Subscribe and hit that like button, people. So Freeform Radio, we got Danny.
Heck yeah, man! Gonna watch these last football games because it's running out, and I guess I'll have to figure out something else to do on Sundays.
And we got Noel.
Hey, thank everybody for listening. Hopefully this tax stuff does work out for us, just so we have more money in our pockets, less money for the government, more money for us.
It's all good, Andy. We want to thank you for listening. And remember to hit like, subscribe, and then we'll catch you all next time.
That was cool, Dad.